He was about to destroy her flower shop until a 6-year-old walked out of the back room and looked exactly like him. The demolition notice had been signed for 3 weeks. Park Jae-won had not planned to deliver it himself. That was what assistants were for. That was what the entire legal team at Seonghwa Development was for. 47 employees whose sole purpose was to handle the uncomfortable parts of progress so that he never had to see the look on someone's face when the envelope landed in their hands. But his executive assistant had called in sick. The junior lawyer had fumbled the paperwork twice. And Jae-won, who had not missed a single deadline in 11 years at the helm of one of Seoul's most aggressive real estate firms, found himself standing in front of a grey building on the edge of Mapo district at 8 in the morning, manila envelope in hand, telling himself this would take exactly 4 minutes. The building was old, 4 stories of cracked concrete, water stains darkening the upper floors like old bruises. The ground floor held 3 tenants, a shoe repair shop that clearly hadn't updated its signage since 1987, a small convenience store with a hand-painted banner, and a flower shop. The flower shop was the only one with its lights already on. He pushed open the glass door. The smell hit him first. Not the chemical sweetness of air freshener, but something real. Soil and green stems, water and petals, the particular living coolness of a space that belonged entirely to growing things. Buckets lined every wall, white chrysanthemums, pink peonies, sunflowers so tall they grazed a hand-painted sign that read, "We open early because flowers don't wait." Cellophane wrapping crinkled on a work table near the window. Someone was arranging a bouquet near the back, her hands moving through pale yellow freesias with the practiced confidence of a person who had done this 10,000 times. She hadn't heard him come in. "Excuse me," Jae-won said. The woman turned. His envelope hit the floor. He did not notice. He was too busy trying to confirm that what he was seeing was real. That the woman standing among freesias and peonies in a worn green apron with a smear of soil on her left wrist and genuine surprise widening her eyes was actually her. Kim Sora. She looked exactly the same and completely different. Her hair was shorter now, pulled back with a clip that had a small sunflower on it. Plastic, cheerful, cheap, in the way that something beloved and often worn becomes. There were faint lines at the corners of her eyes that hadn't been there 7 years ago. She looked tired in the way that capable people look tired, as if the exhaustion was simply one more thing she had decided to carry, without complaining about it. "Jae-won," she said. Not a question. A statement of something she had not prepared for. He bent down and picked up the envelope. He straightened. He could not, in that moment, hand it to her. "Sora," he said, "I didn't know this was your shop. I didn't know you were the one buying this building." A beat of silence, fragile as the freesias between them. Then a small voice called from a back room. "Yama, I can't find the purple crayon." Sora's eyes moved to the doorway. Jae-won followed her gaze. A girl appeared in the gap, 6 years old perhaps, in a yellow school uniform that was slightly too big for her, her dark hair in 2 lopsided pigtails that someone had tried very hard to make even. She was clutching a stack of drawings to her chest and looking at Jae-won with the frank, fearless curiosity that belongs only to children who have not yet been taught to be cautious around strangers. "Who is that?" the girl asked. "Someone Yama knows," Sora said carefully, "from a long time ago." The girl considered this. Then she turned the full force of her attention back to Jae-won. "You have a serious face," she announced. "My teacher has a serious face too, but she smiles when she thinks nobody's looking. Do you do that?" Jae-won blinked. "Hana?" Sora said quietly. And the girl turned and disappeared back through the doorway with the unself-conscious ease of someone who had said exactly what she meant and saw no reason to elaborate. The silence after her departure was different from the one before, heavier, more honest. "Hana," Jae-won repeated. "She's 6, Sora said. She untied her apron, folded it, and set it on the work table with deliberate calm. "Say whatever you came to say, Jae-won." He looked at the envelope in his hand. The clean corporate logo. The legal language inside that reduced a woman's life's work to a line item in a development budget. He set it on the counter without a word. "I need time to read it," Sora said. "Take all the time you need," he said, and he left, which was the first decision he had made in 7 years that had nothing to do with strategy. He came back the next morning. He told himself it was about the timeline. He told himself the legal team needed confirmation of receipt. He told himself many things while he stood at the flower shop door at 7:55, holding 2 paper cups of coffee from the Pojangmatcha around the corner, watching his own reflection in the glass and finding it less convincing than usual. Sora let him in without comment. She accepted the coffee. She did not thank him immediately, which somehow felt more respectful than if she had. "The notice gives us 40 days, she said. 3 shops, 7 families in the upper floors, 1 elderly couple who've lived here since before this neighborhood had a name." "I know." "Do you?" He looked at her. She was trimming the stems of ranunculus with precise, unhurried cuts, not looking at him. This was something he remembered about her, the way she made her hands useful when she was deciding whether to be angry. "Sora, I'm not asking for sympathy," she said. "I'm asking if you actually know what's in this building or if you just know what's on a spreadsheet." He didn't answer immediately. That too was something she had earned. Over the next week, he came back 4 more times. He told his assistant it was due diligence. He brought coffee each time, black for himself, oat milk for her, which he remembered without asking. And each time she accepted it without mentioning that he'd gotten it right. The motif of it, the small paper cups set side by side on the work table among the flower cuttings, became something he thought about on the drive over. On the 4th visit, Hana was there after school, sitting cross-legged on a low stool in the corner drawing. She had commandeered an entire bouquet of baby's breath as reference material and was working with the concentration of someone who considered art a serious professional matter. "She draws every day," Sora said quietly, watching her daughter. "She says she's going to be an artist and a scientist, and also maybe a florist. She hasn't narrowed it down." "She sounds thorough. She sounds like someone who doesn't see any reason to choose." Sora paused. "I used to be like that." He didn't ask what had changed. He thought he already knew part of the answer, and the rest of it, the part he didn't know yet, sat in the room with them like something waiting to be said. Hana looked up from her drawing. "Do you like flowers?" she asked him. "I've never thought about it," he said honestly. She considered him. "That means you've been too busy. Yoma says people who are too busy don't notice flowers. She says that's how you know they need one." She held out a small yellow ranunculus she had apparently been keeping behind her back. "This one's for you." Jaewon took it. He held it in both hands without knowing where to put it. Hana watched him with quiet satisfaction, then went back to her drawing. He was still holding it when he left. That night, at his desk on the 23rd floor, the flower sitting in a glass of water beside his laptop, he opened the old email thread, the one from 7 years ago, the one where Sora's last message. "I sent you 3 letters, Jaewon. 3. Did you even read them?" Still sat unanswered, because by the time he'd found it, she had been gone for 2 months, and his aunt had told him, with the gentle certainty of someone delivering obvious news, that Sora had simply moved on, had decided, on her own, that their worlds were too different, had left without looking back. He had believed it because the alternative, that someone had made the decision for them, was something he had not been ready to examine. He was ready now. His aunt, Han Myungja, had held the position of board chairwoman at Seonghwa Development for 14 years. She was 71, elegant, and had an instinct for pressure that Jaewon had always admired and never entirely trusted. She received him in her office on a Thursday afternoon, behind a desk that looked out over the Han River, her reading glasses sitting precisely on the bridge of her nose as she reviewed quarterly projections. "The Mapo project," Jaewon said without preamble. "I want to discuss alternatives. There are none that are profitable. There are none that have been explored." She looked at him over the glasses. "You've been visiting the site. I've been doing due diligence. You've been having coffee with a florist." She set the projections down. "I know who she is, Jaewon. I knew the moment the address appeared on the acquisition list." The air in the room changed. "You knew," he said. "I've always protected this company's interests, and yours even when you couldn't see clearly enough to protect them yourself." He kept his voice level. "The 3 letters." A pause, small, almost imperceptible, except that he had been watching her face for 34 years, and he knew every frequency of her composure. They were not appropriate correspondence for someone in your position. "They were from a woman He stopped, rebuilt the sentence. "They were addressed to me. They were a complication. A young woman from Mapo with no connections, no family name, and a romantic attachment that would have created problems at the worst possible time for the company." She folded her hands. "I made a decision. The right decision. The company is what it is today in part because I have never been sentimental about the necessary ones. She had Hana, Jae-won said. The words came out quiet and absolute. Sora had our daughter and sent me 3 letters, and you decided to make a decision. Myungja did not flinch. That was the most frightening thing about her. She had made her peace with it long ago, alone, in a room where she hadn't needed to see the cost of what she'd done. If you move forward with what you're considering, she said, you will divide this board. You will create a media event. You will spend the next 6 months managing a scandal instead of a company. I know, Jae-won said. And you're going to do it anyway. He stood. I'm going to do it right, there's a difference. He was almost at the door when she spoke again. The Choi Group has been watching the Mapo acquisition. Director Choi approached me last week. She paused. He suggested that if Kim Sora were to prove difficult, if the shop were to resist the demolition order, a custody challenge might be an efficient way to resolve her leverage. Jae-won turned around. He knows about Hana, Myungja continued. He knows she's yours, and he believes that information properly deployed could be useful pressure. She looked at him steadily. I told him nothing, but I am telling you, so you understand what's coming. He stood very still for a long moment. Why are you telling me? Because whatever else I've done, she said, and something in her voice moved just slightly, like a fault line shifting under still water. She is still my great niece. He went to Sora that evening. She was closing the shop, pulling the bucket of chrysanthemums inside from the sidewalk, and she took one look at his face and said, Come in. Tell me. He told her. All of it. The letters, his aunt, Director Choi. The threat against Hana that had not yet been made official, but was being sharpened somewhere in a conference room above the river. He told her standing by the work table, without softening any of it, because she deserved the full truth delivered with the same steadiness she brought to every hard thing. She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. 7 years, she finally said. Yes. I thought you'd simply chosen not to answer. I know. She pressed her palms flat on the work table. He could see the effort it took her not to let her hands shake. I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this, Jae-won. I built everything in this room. I built everything in my life around the understanding that you hadn't wanted us. I know that too. And now you come back and tell me it was taken from you and I'm supposed to, what, start over? Trust someone who works for the people who want to flatten my shop? No, he said. I'm not asking you to start over. I'm asking you to let me fix what I can fix, the building, the families upstairs, Hana's safety. And then, only if you want, we figure out the rest. She looked at him for a very long time. There's a drawing, she said finally. Her voice had changed. Hana has been drawing the same picture for 2 years. A tall man with dark hair standing in a flower shop. She calls him the Flower Man. She has never explained where the idea came from. She paused. She told me last week that she thinks he's going to walk through the door someday. Jae-won said nothing. There was nothing adequate to say. Don't make her a liar, Sora said. The Seonghwa Development Emergency Shareholders Meeting was called for a Tuesday. Jae-won had spent 5 days preparing for it, with the focused, exhausting precision of someone who understood that some rooms only give you one chance. He had the documents. The intercepted letters, retrieved with some difficulty, from a physical archive his aunt had maintained in her private records, apparently out of the same meticulous habit that governed every other corner of her life. The communication logs. The paper trail of a decision made in a paneled office 7 years ago that had quietly rerouted 2 lives and produced as an unintended consequence a 6-year-old girl who drew tall men in flower shops and believed they were coming. He also had a revised proposal for the Mapo site, a mixed-use development that preserved the ground floor commercial tenants, relocated the residential families to comparable units at the company's expense, and included a community garden on the eastern wall. It cost more. It was right. The boardroom was full. 14 directors, 6 advisors, 2 legal representatives, and his aunt, seated at the far end of the table with the composed expression of someone who had prepared for several versions of this morning and was quietly adjusting to the one she'd gotten. Director Choi was there too, silver-haired and unhurried, with the air of a man accustomed to watching other people's fires from a comfortable distance. Jae-won presented the letters first. He did not narrate them. He let them be what they were, 3 handwritten pages asking, with increasing quietness, whether someone was still there. The room went very still. "I am presenting this to the board," he said, "not as personal grievance, but as a demonstration of the decision-making culture this company has tolerated at its highest levels. A culture in which the people we affect, the families in our buildings, the tenants in our acquisition path, the people who write letters, are treated as complications to be managed rather than human beings to be considered." He outlined Director Choi's approach to his aunt, the suggestion, the use of a child's legal status as a development tool. He named it plainly, without theatre, and watched the temperature in the room drop several degrees. "I am not resigning," Jae-won continued. "I am restructuring. The Mapo project proceeds under the revised plan. Director Choi's involvement in this company ends today, and the board governance protocols regarding family interference in executive communications will be codified this quarter." He paused. "I will not negotiate on any of these points." Choi's face had arranged itself into something that wanted to be disdain and kept slipping. "This is sentiment dressed as strategy," he said. "You're throwing away a profitable project for a florist." "I'm choosing a profitable project that doesn't require us to threaten a 6-year-old, Jae-won said. "If the board finds those incompatible, we have a larger problem than the Mapo site." Nobody spoke. And then the door to the boardroom opened. His assistant appeared in the gap, looking uncertain. "Sir, I apologize. She said she had something for you. She was very—" Behind him, moving with the unhurried confidence of someone who had decided that the worst that could happen was being asked to leave, came Hana. Yellow school uniform, lopsided pigtails, both hands clutching a folded piece of paper to her chest. The room full of directors stared. Hana walked directly to Jae-won, as if she had been navigating boardrooms her whole life. She held out the paper. "Ioma said you were having an important meeting," she said. "I thought you might want this for it." He took the drawing, unfolded it. A flower shop rendered in crayon. A tall man with dark hair standing inside it, holding a yellow ranunculus in both hands. Written at the top in careful 6-year-old handwriting, "The flower man comes back." The room remained perfectly silent. Jae-won folded the drawing and put it in his jacket pocket against his chest. "Excuse me for one moment," he said to the board, and he walked out of the room and crouched down in the hallway to look at his daughter at eye level for the very first time. "Thank you," he said. Hana looked at him with her mother's directness and something that was entirely her own. "You were holding the flower wrong last time," she said. "You were squishing the stem. You have to hold it like it's already growing." "I'll remember that," he said. She nodded, satisfied, and took his hand without asking. 3 months later, the Mapo building had scaffolding on its east side. Not demolition scaffolding, restoration. The shoe repair shop had a new sign. The convenience store had gotten its broken step fixed. The flower shop had a larger window, at Sora's specification, because she'd said she wanted the chrysanthemums to have more light. The elementary school's autumn showcase was held on a Thursday afternoon, in a gymnasium that smelled like gym shoes and construction paper, with 40 children's paintings hung at eye level along the walls. The parents sat in plastic chairs. There were juice boxes. Someone's baby was crying in the back row and nobody seemed particularly troubled by it. Jae-won sat in a plastic chair in the 4th row, still in the shirt he'd worn to the office, jacket folded over his knees. No assistant, no driver waiting outside. His phone was in his jacket pocket, next to a slightly creased drawing of a flower shop. Sora sat beside him, close enough that their arms touched. She hadn't moved away. "She's been practicing her speech for 2 weeks, Sora said. She memorized it, and then decided the memorized version was too boring and started improvising. I have no idea what she's going to say." "That sounds about right," he said. She looked at him sideways. "This is the least glamorous place you've been in months." "I know. You could have sent someone." "I know," he said again. He turned to look at her, and something in his expression was quieter than she had seen it yet. Quieter and more settled, the way a person looks when they have stopped performing composure and are simply feeling it. "I didn't want to send someone." On the small stage at the front of the gymnasium, a teacher announced the next presenter. Hana walked out with a rolled-up painting under one arm and the particular self-possession of a person who has important things to say and believes the audience is lucky to be there. She unrolled the painting, a flower shop, bigger than the crayon version, painted in yellows and pinks and one very confident streak of green for the stems. In the window, 3 figures, a woman in a green apron, a man with dark hair, and a small girl with lopsided pigtails. "This is my family," Hana announced into the microphone. "We have a flower shop. My Iyoma says flowers don't wait, so we open early. She paused and looked out at the fourth row with the straightforward clarity of someone who had already made a decision about a word and was just now using it for the first time. "My Appa is learning how to hold them right." Zora pressed her fingers to her mouth. Jaewon did not look away from the stage. Sometimes the things that find you are the ones you never went looking for. A small glass door in a grey building, a yellow flower held out in both small hands, 3 letters that traveled 7 years through the wrong kind of silence to arrive, finally, in a gymnasium that smelled like gym shoes and construction paper, in the only place they had ever been meant to go.